I'm Dr. Alan Blum, director of the University of Alabama Center for the Study of Tobacco and Society and curator of Museum Malignancy, Tobacco Industry Sponsorship of the Arts. The spring of 2019 has been marked by disruptive protest demonstrations at major American art museums. At New York's Whitney Museum of American Art, protesters have called for the removal of a member of the Board of Trustees who heads a company that manufactures tear gas that may have been used on the U.S.-Mexican border. Concerns about the selection of the American Museum of Natural History as the site of a reception in honor of the President of Brazil led to cancellation of the reception. Many had questioned the judgment and ethics of a museum concerned about protecting the environment, hosting a gala event for an individual who has stepped up the destruction of the Amazon forest. Museums have also been under fire for accepting funds from Saudi Arabia and from arch conservatives like the Koch brothers. But the most vocal and widespread protests of all have been directed at art museums that have accepted funding from the Sackler family, owners of Purdue Pharma, maker of the opioid drug OxyContin. Purdue and other opioid manufacturers are the target of over 2,000 lawsuits, including those brought by more than 35 states and 1,600 cities and countries. As the result of outrage expressed by artists and other protesters over the role the Sackler family may have played in the marketing of opioids, the Sackler family pledges of funding have now been rejected by New York City's Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, among others. The opioid crisis is horrific. It's estimated that opioids have killed more than 200,000 Americans and more than 47,000 lives are expected to be lost in 2019 due to opioid addiction. Yet with few exceptions, no similar outrage has been expressed by artists, health organizations, or the public at the most dominant corporate sponsor of the arts in the United States over the past 60 years. Altria, the parent company of Philip Morris, makers of the top-selling cigarette brand Marlboro. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that cigarette smoking will take 480,000 American lives this year alone, added to the more than 20 million deaths from smoking over the past 50 years. This exhibition focuses on the history of Philip Morris's support of the arts. For too long, the art world, the media, the business community, health organizations, politicians, and the public at large have turned a blind eye to cigarette sponsorship of art museums. Indeed, when it comes to taking money from Philip Morris, the most popular museums in the nation, such as the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Whitney Museum of American Art, and the Smithsonian Institution, continue to lick the hand that feeds them. To be sure, the recent protests of Sackler funding at art museums has led some to ask, where does one draw the line? Might much of art museum funding be tarnished in some way? In a compelling article in the New York Times on May 19, 2019, entitled "Museums Must Reject Tainted Money," Anand Giridharadas asks the uncomfortable question, when it comes to blood money for the arts, how bloody is too bloody? Even as a New York Times editorial on October 9, 2007, expressed admiration for Philip Morris's support of the arts, the editorial added that we shuddered at how easily large amounts of cash can buy neutrality and eventually respectability in a very influential part of the community. And it continued, it's also worth wondering about the real costs of that funding. The fact that for so many institutions, Philip Morris ceased to mean tobacco and came to mean mainly a reliable check. As this exhibition will point out, the money that the cigarette company gives to the arts isn't true beneficence. For one thing, it's a tax write-off, so it doesn't cost shareholders a penny. For another, to put just one statistic into perspective, in 2002, when the maker of Marlboro gave $12.8 million to art museums and other cultural groups in America, the company's profits were nearly $12 billion. That's 1/1000th of 1% of net revenue, a pretty cheap price to pay for buying goodwill, complacency, and silence. Could it be that tobacco sponsorship money for the arts has been an even stronger addiction than opioids? Why else would already wealthy museums need more and more of it? Then again, Marlboro and the arts have more in common than we might have realized. By selling more Marlboros, Philip Morris can sponsor more art. By sponsoring more art, Philip Morris can buy more complacency. And by buying more complacency, Philip Morris can sell more Marlboros. Get the picture?